In today's video, we're going to talk about a drug baron from Afghanistan not many people know of, the notorious Haji Juma Khan. Is it good to be known? The most infamous, scandalous, and known drug cartels are set in and around Mexico and South America. Naturally, the cartel bosses with celebrity status we all know come from that region as well. Fabio Ochoa Vazquez, Rafael Caro Quintero, El Chapo Guzman, and Pablo Escobar are only some of the names that pop to mind when you think about drug lords, and they all come from the aforementioned region. But what if I told you there are many drug traffickers from other places, more powerful than the Mexicans, that have smartly kept their names well hidden from the public eye? One of them is Juma Khan, whom we've done extensive research on to find out just how powerful he is. Who is Juma Khan? Not much is known about Juma Khan's life. He was born in 1955 in the Balak tribe from the Nimroz province in Afghanistan and began his journey as a criminal in the 90s. He was like all other kids from that troubled part of the world. But since he was illiterate, the only thing that could nab him a decent amount of money was drug smuggling. He very soon became a provincial drug smuggler for southwest Afghanistan and also connected with the Taliban in the second half of the 90s. His home in Bramcha was one of the headquarters of the Taliban leaders. Let's just say he was a kind of an innkeeper for the Taliban, and he also provided them with ammo and explosives as a dessert after hearty meals. In return, they protected him and let him make millions by cultivating tons of poppy. He even built underground bunkers to save the drugs from the war. Everyone knows who the Taliban are, but for those of you living under a rock, they are very bad people. Strong, but bad. They even managed to fight the United States Army as well as the Soviet Union Army and not disappear until the US invasion of 2001. But back to Juma Khan. He became very famous after the Taliban fell in 2001. For some reason, Americans let him go, even though they knew he was a huge drug trafficker. In fact, he was withheld multiple times around the period, but always released without any charges. How Juma gained control of a city. Baramcha is a town in Afghanistan very close to the Pakistani border that became very famous as an important drug trade center for the Taliban even after they fell, and stayed that way until they seized control of the country again in 2021. Pakistan connections were important for the Taliban because they processed poppy seeds for opium cultivation and export. They used the city to export poppy in its raw form to Pakistan without being noticed by the big leagues. But how did Baramcha become that famous? Well, it is mostly because of Juma, after he somehow eluded the American prison through sheer luck or their own stupidity. He quickly invaded the town of Baramcha with his party and captured it with ease. He made Chagai Hills into a drug empire and grew Baramcha into the smuggling behemoth it is today. He brought chemists from around the world and developed unique smuggling techniques such as hiding drugs in carpets as dust and even sewing them into what looked like balls of wool. Due to his Taliban ties and his drug smuggling kingpin reputation, he managed to keep connections with Pakistan and Iran, and with their help developed a worldwide heroin distribution network worth tens of billions of dollars. This was the main source of income for the Taliban, and it is how they rose back to power during the 20-year war. Desert kept the smuggling safe. It is wild how Juma's location was known for years, but nobody managed to capture him or sever any drug ties even during the war. Well, ethnic Balak and Pashtun tribes control all the areas around Baramcha, and since he is Balak, he had natural connections with them. It also helps that these tribes were a part of various drug smuggling chains for hundreds of years. Alongside that, there are 200,000 square miles of desert and granite rocks. This is one of the most remote and lawless places on earth, or how criminals see it, a paradise, especially for Juma, who was very respected in the tribe, even though he was a drug lord, especially because he was a drug lord. The safety sure helped his business grow, as he was responsible for 53% of the opium production in the country, and Afghanistan meets 80% of the world's total opium demand. Another saving grace for Juma was the corrupt government of his own country. You could pretty much do anything if you bribed the correct people, and with that much money, he of course had the whole country in his pocket, just in case. The rivalry. As it goes with most cartel smugglers and kingpins, there is always someone else who wants the job. Juma Khan's biggest rival was Bashir Nurzai, also a drug lord connected to the Taliban, and this guy allegedly had his hands in the September 11th attacks. Because of an unknown reason, Bashir agreed to cooperate with the Americans after the Taliban rule was over, but he didn't know that Juma would outsmart him. Even though he was an informant, it was only natural that the U.S. government wanted him behind bars. And in April of 2005, he was arrested, charged with smuggling over $50 million of heroin into the U.S., and sentenced to life in prison. Surprise, surprise, Juma Khan was the one to give the Americans the information about Nurzai's whole drug empire. Oh, how the big birds fall. The New York Times reported that, allegedly, Juma Khan took Nurzai's place as the mole for the U.S. government, that for a very long time, he provided the U.S. officials with crucial information about the Taliban movement, corruption in Afghanistan, and other drug traffickers. He apparently flew to the U.S. for meetings with the CIA frequently, and worked with the Afghani president's brother. In return, he was paid a lot of money and was kept safe. The biggest proof of Juma working with the U.S. is that a DEA agent, Edward Follis, spent 2 years conversing with him, which is where most of the information about him comes from. But Juma knew what Follis's mission was, but despite that, he kept him close because he saw value in that relationship. Well, one day, Follis and Juma were set to meet in Jakarta, Indonesia, but without Follis knowing, the agents caught Juma and moved him to New York. This theory doesn't sit well with me, since he didn't withhold any important information or moved among people of their interest. And if he were a crucial informant, why would he be detained in 2008 in the capital of Indonesia, before the war ended and Al-Qaeda was shut down, for unknown reasons, and then rapidly moved to New York City? And how and why would an illiterate Afghani drug lord get in touch with the US and frequently go to meetings with the CIA? I mean, have you seen him? There is literally zero chance this guy would be able to constantly travel the US without any major media network noticing. It is very curious how his empire was marked as an organization that fell under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act, even though he was an alleged mole. It is very curious as well how he was silently moved to prison without any information about his trial or anything being released to the public. And that, kids, is why you stay in your desert safe haven if you're a narcotics kingpin. The coming home drama. Another very strange turn of events here is the release of Haji Juma Khan before the end of the war in Afghanistan and the release of Bashir Nurzai after the war ended. On April 20, 2018, Juma was released without any media presence or any public notification. If he wasn't charged with anything or didn't go to trial, how did he spend 10 years in America with the whole world thinking he just randomly went missing? Without any explanation, he just popped up one day in Afghanistan to continue his work or whatever. Well, after the Taliban took over once again, with his help no doubt, his rival was released soon after. It was reported that Nurzai was a part of the US negotiations with the Taliban, but it is untrue, since he never left Guantanamo Bay during his sentence. On September 19, 2022, he popped up in Afghanistan as well. According to a Taliban spokesman, he was traded for Mark Frerichs, an American Navy engineer who was caught in Afghanistan by the Haqqani network. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, ring that bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. If you like this type of video, tell us in the comments section. Also, tell us what you don't like about the video, as we always look for ways to improve. Till next time.